guys, it's Teenage Marvel Fan back with another video, and in this video I will be doing an episode review for Marvel Spider-Man, and this episode was titled Brand New Day, and this episode was actually on last week, so I'm a week late on this review, but it is part 1 to a part 2 event. They're calling it the Cellar Saga. Basically any storyline that they use for this series, they add saga at the end of it, so they can call like the whole thing like a saga. Because like before this, when they were doing the whole Superior Spider-Man thing, they called it the Superior Spider-Man Saga, or maybe it was just the Superior Saga. But now it's the Cellar Saga, and then up next we have the Goblin War Saga, which I'm actually really excited for. I watched a teaser trailer for it. It looks really bad, but it's an interesting idea. The main thing I don't like about it is the designs, but I'll talk about that more in my next review for Marvel Spider-Man. So let's get into this episode that was on last week. So Peter begins getting his life back on track following Octavius' sacrifice, including with his departure from Horizon High, because before this, he didn't know that Otto, quit Horizon High and now goes to Midtown again. So that's not good. But then Spider-Man sees that Mr. Negative is fighting someone, so then he swings in to save the day, and then finds out that he's fighting Molten Man, and then they get in this huge fight, and this is the first time that we're seeing both Mr. Negative and Molten Man on this show, so it was cool to see them on this show. And then they get defeated, of course, because he's Spider-Man and he defeats the villains. And then they're sent to the Cellar, which is this super high security maximum prison. Yeah. And then after that, Peter visits Otto in the hospital because he's still in a coma. And then that is when Anna Maria says that he needs to find someone that he can relate to and he can share his problems with. So he decides to call Ms. Marvel because she's a superhero and she would believe the whole mind swap thing. So he calls her, but it goes straight to voicemail, and he's a super awkward teenager, so he does a really bad voicemail. And then he decides to go talk to her in person. So he swings over to the Avengers Tower, but the place is trashed. And then he sees a bunch of sand all over the place. And then he finds Iron Man's gauntlet in the pile of sand. So he's like, oh no, Sand Girl has been here. By the way, I still really hate Sand Girl. I wish they would just use Sandman. Like, I don't get why they have to use Sand Girl, because she's really stupid. They should just use Sandman, because he's a lot cooler. And then all of a sudden, this black circular portal opens up, and then Hulk gets tossed out of there. And then before Spider-Man can talk to him or say anything, Hulk gets transported out of there again. So now the Hulk is gone. And then Peter keeps trying to call Ms. Marvel, and she finally picks up the phone, and they're on FaceTime, so he can see what's going on there, and they're fighting somebody, but he can't tell who it is. But then he sees this big explosion, and of course the call ends because, big explosion. So, but it's like right outside Avengers Tower, so he sees the explosion, and he swings over there, and then he sees Ms. Marvel and Captain America, and he starts running over to them to see what's going on, but then all of a sudden a shadow swipes by, and then they disappear. So then he's like, oh great, looks like I did nothing to help, and then he runs into Black Widow, and then a whole bunch of, like they start getting attacked by somebody, they don't know who yet, Spider-Man, of course, comes up with some theories as to who it is because, like I said in the Avengers Tower, he thinks that Sandgirl was there because of the sand. Then he thinks that the one that took Hulk was Spot. And then out here in the forest, when he's teaming up with Black Widow to fight these villains, he sees Mr. Negative's energy, Cloak and Dagger's weapons and energy, and then Molten Man's fire and stuff like that. So he thinks that all of these villains are responsible and that they've teamed up to take down the Avengers. So then he takes this news. Well, actually, before he does that, Black Widow disappears too. She gets sucked into a portal. So then he takes this news and his theory to the police. And then Chief Watanabe debunks his theory because all of those villains are locked away in the cellar. So it can't be them because they're locked up. And then Spider-Man, before Black Widow disappeared, he was able to put a tracker on her. So he decides to follow up his lead, and he starts tracking where the tracker is. And then it leads him down to the subway somewhere. So he gets there, and then this villain shows up. Nobody he's ever faced off against before. And then he finds out that this is the Regent. And apparently, the Regent is, well, it's a dude in a suit, like a robotic mech suit. But he or she, it has been using the powers of these villains from the cellar. So then Peter figures out that if he's getting the powers of these villains from the cellar, then he must have a way into the cellar. So he starts to unravel the truth, but before he can do anything, Regent starts attacking him with other powers because Peter already knew all the villains' powers that were involved before, so he brought weapons and tools to counteract their powers. But then the Regent starts using other powers, like he uses some kind of ice blast. So Peter thinks that that's from Blizzard, maybe. And then also he uses wind powers. I think that's probably from Whirlwind. And then he uses some kind of green energy blast. That's the one that I don't really know whose powers that would be. I was thinking maybe Mysterio, but Mysterio doesn't really have powers. It's all illusions. And then I was thinking, I don't know, maybe Shocker, because like on Spectacular Spider-Man, Shocker's shockwaves were green. So I was thinking maybe that. But I don't know if we're actually ever going to see Shocker on this show again, because we saw him once in, I think, Season 1. But he was voiced by Cameron Boyce, who unfortunately passed away a few months ago. So I don't think we'll be seeing that character returning anytime soon. But anyway, with the green powers thing, I still don't know whose powers that would be. So let me know down in the comments below what Spider-Man villain has green energy blasts, because I really have no idea. But then anyway, the Regent opens up this portal, and then Spider-Man gets sucked into it, and that is where the episode ends off. So this was a really good episode. Really left on a cliffhanger. And it's like, ooh, what's gonna happen? Is Spider-Man gonna survive? Yes, of course he's gonna survive. Like, the season doesn't end here. The series definitely doesn't, because we already know we're getting a third season, and if Spider-Man was dead, then we wouldn't have any more of this show. But yeah, like I said, I like this episode, but post your thoughts down in the comments below. What did you guys think about this? Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in my next video, so I can bestow all my Marvel knowledge upon you.